If you have your Bibles, turn with me to the Gospel of John, chapter 19. In verse 4. Pilate therefore went forth again and saith unto them, Behold, I bring him forth to you, that ye may know that I find no fault in him. Of course, that being Jesus Christ. Well, Pilate didn't find any fault in Jesus because there was no fault to find. You know, it's kind of one of them things, if you look for something that's not there, you'll never find it. Then came Jesus forth, wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. And Pilate saith unto them, Behold the man. When the chief priests therefore and officers saw him, they cried out, saying, Crucify him, crucify him. Pilate saith unto them, Take ye him, and crucify him. For I find no fault in him. Then Jews answered him, We have a law, and by our law he ought to die, because he made himself the Son of God. Jesus Christ had declared himself as the Son of God on many occasions throughout Scripture. Maybe not directly at times, but in this same Gospel of John chapter 10, he says, I and the Father are one. He says, I do the will of the Father which is in me. He declared that he was the Son of God. As a matter of fact, they asked him straightforward, Are you the Christ? And he said that I am. When Pilate therefore heard that saying, he was the more afraid, and went again into the judgment hall, and saith unto Jesus, Whence art thou? But Jesus gave him no answer. Then saith Pilate unto him, Speakest thou not unto me? Knowest thou not that I have power to crucify thee, and I have power to release thee? Man thinks he has power by his nature. And Pilate you would think does have some power, doesn't he? He's the governor of the province there. He's in charge, if you will, of that area, or he's supposed to be. But what did Jesus answer him when he said that? Listen to this statement. Jesus answered, Thou couldst have no power at all against me, except it were given from above. Therefore he that delivered me unto thee hath the greater sin. The statement that Jesus made to Pilate, Thou couldst have no power at all against me. Why does Pilate not have any power when it comes to Jesus Christ? Because Jesus Christ has all the power that there is. That later on in this book of John, the next chapter, the next chapter he resurrects. Now, the book of Romans tells us that he is declared the Son of God with power by the resurrection from the dead. How many people do you know of can lay their life down of their own will and then have the power to bring it up again? Now, that is not just hearsay, though. That is verified in other ancient sources outside the Bible that date within months of the resurrection. Not years, not decades, not centuries after Christ, months after Christ is resurrected, there are sources that testify to that fact. And even more to the point, it said that he had the power to lay his life down. How many of you can just will your life down? I mean, really, think about it. What did Jesus say? The last thing he said on the cross is, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. How many of you can do that? I can't take thought and lay my life down and just take it in full control like that. Only God has that ability. But listen to what he says in this 20th chapter, that Thomas doubted that it had happened. Can you blame the guy? And after 8 days, in the 26th verse, again his disciples were with him, and Thomas with them. Then came Jesus, and the doors being shut, and stood in the midst and said, Peace be unto you. Then saith he to Thomas, Reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands. And reach hither thy hand, and thrust it into my side, and be not faithless, but believing. And Thomas answered and said unto him, My Lord and my God. Jesus saith unto him, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. How many of you are thankful for the fact that Jesus Christ died on the cross and resurrected himself? Proved to be the Son of God and proved that his sacrifice was good enough for you. Is that good news to you? All the things that you've done wrong, think about it. I mean, have you done anything wrong today? Jesus Christ pays for it on the cross. Now, with our statement of this morning, though, he has the power to take you to heaven. He's our mediator. That Brother Ronnie prayed in his prayer that he would pray that I would preach Jesus Christ and him crucified. That's a huge statement. Preach Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Preach that his crucifixion was good enough. And his death was good enough. And by the way, yes, Jesus Christ died on that cross because he laid his life down. That's important for us to know. So now my question now is, how much confidence do you have in that Son of God? Because think about this. Let me go also to the book of Colossians, chapter 1. Colossians chapter 1 and verse 12. Giving thanks unto the Father, which hath made us meet to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in light, who hath delivered us from the power of darkness, and hath translated us unto the kingdom of his dear Son, in whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins, who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. What did he say that Jesus Christ? He was the image of God, the invisible God. Think about it. We believe God is everywhere present, nowhere absent, right? But can you see him physically? When they looked at Jesus Christ in his physical body, in his physical form, they could see God. When you look at Jesus Christ, you see God himself. When you look at him, you see the great I am. He tells the Jews that before Abraham was, I am. There's another time that he told the Jews that he was the Son of God and was God himself. He made himself the Son of God. And he had all the power that there is, and that's why Pilate had no power against him. For by him were all things created that are in heaven and are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him. And he is before all things, and by him all things consist. Now let me pause right there. He made everything that you see, and he says before him all things consist. Listen to this statement. Let me make this statement to you. You admit that we're at the same point around the sun that we were at this time last year. We make one full run around the sun in a year's time. It's always that way, isn't it? September comes the same time every year, right? And we have similar weather patterns at that time. Now, climates change all the time. That's been the way it is since the beginning of time. Climates change. But how precise is this earth and its orbit and its rotation? And God holds it that way perfectly. And by the way, he can stop it when he so desires. He can even pull it backwards when he so desires. As long as there was daylight, Joshua could win the battle in the book of Joshua. And the earth stood still an extra day's worth for Joshua to finish that battle. Hezekiah was about to die, and the Lord said, I'll give you 15 more years. And they asked for a sign. And he said, move the sundial and the time back 15 degrees. That's about 45 minutes. So they relived 45 minutes over. How would you like to do that? Sometimes I wish I could do that in a lot of ways. That God has the ability to hold it in place, pull it backwards, but he holds it in such a precise manner that it happens all the time the same way. Does that just blow your mind? That God has the ability to create it and hold it the way it's supposed to be, that it goes the same way consistently. That amazing? Now, what does that mean to us? I mean, it sounds good. Now, it does talk about going to heaven, because that's the only way you're going to heaven is by God himself. But let's take a look at the book of Daniel, chapter 3. And I'm going to show you how the Lord Himself has all the power that there is, regardless of what man thinks about it. In the book of Daniel, chapter 3, that Nebuchadnezzar has done something you should never do. He has made an image to worship. You should never worship anything but God. And the decree is made that whenever music plays, you're to fall down and worship the image that he had made. Now, the 3rd chapter in the 17th verse. Back up again, verse 16. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said unto the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, we will not serve the gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. How many of you can say the same exact thing? How many of you can say with confidence that your God is able to deliver you out of your trial? The trouble that you face, can God deliver you out of that? I guarantee you He can. I made this statement before. If they had not lived through the fiery furnace, does God still deliver? Well, I believe so, because they go to be with Him. But showing His power, listen to this what He says. We'll drop down to verse 22. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, the furnace exceeding hot. Now, I'll back up and get a little information that he ordered the furnace to be 7 times hotter than it's supposed to be. That's hot. Hot enough they kill him already anyway. Because it was so exceeding hot, the flame of the fire slew those that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So the people that are throwing them in are killed by the fire. Does that tell you something? Think about that. The people that are going to throw him in, these soldiers, they have probably thrown some other folks into this furnace, have died putting them in. So surely Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are goners, right? Not quite. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished. That means astonished. Very similar word to our word today, astonished. He's surprised. He sees something. And rose up in haste and spake, and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, True, O king. He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Who's in the furnace with them? Oh, no, NIV, it's not a son of the gods. And it's not one that has the form of a god. It says it is the Son of God. Jesus Christ. Has Jesus Christ got the power to deliver you from your fiery furnace? Does He have the ability to deliver you from the things that you are facing? Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace, and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth of the midst of the fire. They come forth and they come out of that exactly the way you would hope for, right? They're alive and had no hurt. They don't even smell of fire. We serve an amazing God, don't we? Now we'll ask you a question. Can the Lord humble us? That's an interesting statement as well, because here we have Daniel. We're going to stay here. And we're going to look at the 4th chapter of the book of Daniel, and we have Nebuchadnezzar. He still, I'm sure, remembers this episode with other three Hebrew children, right? How many of you would remember that very clearly if you saw it? I wonder how many times that Nebuchadnezzar remembered the view of the Son of God himself. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? I bet that would be a sight to see. Down in the 4th chapter in the 28th verse. All this came upon King Nebuchadnezzar. And at the end of 12 months, he walked in the palace of the kingdom of Babylon. And the king spake and said, Is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty? He's puffed up with pride, ain't he? Look what I've created. Look at my majesty and my power. Now think about this. Think about a king that does have that power. And a king that's dressed in that way. He's got the look, he's got the power, he's done all these things, he's created an empire. And while the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee. And they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make thee to eat grass as an oxen, and 7 times shall pass over thee until thou knowest the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. The same hour was this thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar, and he was driven from men, and did eat grass as oxen, and his body was whipped from the dew of heaven, and his hairs were grown out like eagle feathers, and his nails like bird's claws. Think about the king now. King Nebuchadnezzar had all the majesty, had all the glory and all these things, and now he's eating grass like a cow, and his hair's grown out like feathers, and his nails like claws. He's living like a wild animal. Is Nebuchadnezzar all that strong now? Who has all the power? Nebuchadnezzar need to remember who did. Now, I'm sure he saw it. Once again, like I said, I'm sure he had in remembrance that the least part of they saw the Son of God. And at the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up mine eyes unto heaven, and mine understanding returned unto me, and I blessed the Most High. And I praised and honored him that liveth forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation. And all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing. And he doeth according to his will in the army of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth, and none can stay his hand or say unto him, What doest thou? The troubles and trials that we have cannot hinder God. Our pride and the power that we think we have can't hinder God. That God cannot be thwarted. Why? Because he has all the power that there is. That we have no power against him at all. Pilate didn't, Nebuchadnezzar didn't, we don't either. Are you thankful that he can have mercy on us and deliver us as he did Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? And deliver David from Goliath. Deliver you from your trial. Whatever it may be. I'm sure you have them. But your God is able. And he's not hindered by me. He is indeed 100% able. And it says, none can stay his hand or say in him, What doest thou? We can't even question God's motives. Sometimes we do, don't we? We sing a song called Farther Along. We'll know all about it. And it talks about those living so wicked year after year, never molested though they be in the wrong. We can't question God's motives because he is always right. How he deals with us on an everyday basis is always right. He says that he knows what we need before we ask. Do you think he knows better than we do what you really need? I mean, think about this. Has there ever been a thing that you've asked God for they didn't necessarily give it to you? You reckon why that is? See, God hears every prayer, and sometimes the answer to the prayer is no. You know why? Because you didn't need to begin with. He knows what you need before you ask. His grace is sufficient, and his ability to provide everything that a child of God needs, he has that ability. He has that power, and he has that prerogative. God's motives are pure. His intentions are always right, even though we may not understand it. At the same time, my reason returned unto me, and for the glory of my kingdom, mine honor and brightness returned unto me, and my counselors and my lords sought unto me, and I was established in my kingdom. And excellent majesty was added unto me. So now he's got a lot of that glory back, doesn't he? What he was once before. But he understands something greatly. Now listen to his next statement, though. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all whose works are truth, and his ways judgment, and those that walk in pride, he is able to abase. I want to ask a question now. How many of you have ever been disciplined by your parents? Got some kids that throw some hands up. And did any of you adults ever get this one by your parents? You they're older, I mean, my dad did me. Did you learn? Was it to learn something that you needed to know? Do you learn what you need to know when the Lord abases us? See, that's what Nebuchadnezzar needed to learn. That he didn't need to be puffed up and have all this pride. What did the Lord do? He humbled him. Changed his mind. And, in our sinful nature and the way we look at it, that was an extreme abasing, wasn't it? But now he's got all of that back, all that, the majesty of his kingdom and his excellency and all that stuff has returned. But now he still says, he extols and honors the King of heaven. That's where it can lead us, right? Do you think 3 Hebrew children give God glory for their deliverance? David did. And we thank the Lord for his great grace and his providence every day. Yeah, I agree. I love talking about salvation by sovereign grace and the grace that God's given us. But folks, I'm thankful for the grace that we have every day. The grace sufficient for another day. The longest running miracle in the Bible is 40 years that God provided manna in the wilderness. And God always give them enough manna for today. And you say that that you're thankful that the Lord has provided what you have needed today. Tomorrow the Lord may come again. But today we've had the opportunity to be at his house. And thankful that we didn't have to walk over here. How thankful are you for God's everyday blessings, everyday providence? Things we don't really even think about. Are you thankful for the power that God has to help us see these things and do these things? We can't question him, we can't hinder him, but I'm thankful that he helps us along life's way. Pilate did not have the ability to kill Jesus Christ. He did not have the ability to crucify him unless the Lord laid himself down for it. And that God loved you that much still has the same power he had then to help you today. So in your troubles and trials, look to him that lives forever. May the Lord bless you and keep you, is our prayer.